So not yesterday, last time, sorry, the age of exploration basically has begun. But the first area that is being colonized is this area down here. Well, basically they're going to colonize the Pacific Ocean, and that's what we're going to continue with for this video. There is one country that has been forgotten about and left out, and that's Viate. Viate colonizes these few islands right here, and also the Chinese countries also start to colonize this area here as well. They colonize these islands here. Yeah, which at the time are uninhabited, and they were discovered away, but they were uninhabited. Meanwhile, whoever colonized this island will basically colonize the rest. I think this is Sifa who colonized it. So yeah, Sifa colonizes the rest of the island. Maki even creates a colony of its own, and they colonize these islands over here, basically giving Maki a lot of control over these islands. And then Papua New Guinea, Phyllis will take over a lot of the northern part of the area and this area here. And they'll take over Bougainville, basically. And yeah, that's what. And they even take over Bougainville, which is like this island here. However, Dosa is now, they'll wait to the colony surge, but they start to colonize Western Australia. Yeah, and Toman, this Indian country, they colonize this portion of Australia down here, creating a second Australian colony for them. And then Nasty, they start to colonize this little area over here. No one claims the inner portion of Australia yet. But all of Australia's coast besides this side is colonized. That's where Zhao basically, starts to reach down and colonize this area before anyone does. And Xanadu will do the same, prevent anyone else from colonizing the homeland, because these people on the other side of Australia, this is their homeland. This is where they've been living here for centuries, so they colonize the rest. Xanadu also colonizes Tasmania as well. But things aren't done. We still have a whole Pacific Ocean. Sunni, the Japanese state, basically colonizes down here. They colonize all these islands, all these useless islands. But hey, these islands will basically just be all Japanese people at this point, because they are the ones colonizing all these little islands over here. Meanwhile, Kanto will finally reach down here and colonize Fiji. And then they don't discover New Zealand yet. They don't find that yet, but they don't discover New Zealand yet. Meanwhile, there's gonna be even more war. So Sosa, they wanna take down Tamara and create their own empire. Tamara is still very weakened from many rebellions and Gaza. So Tamara gets invaded by Sosa. Sosa puts troops and puts a mad dash for the capital. Also, they surround their entire half of the army in this little area, basically cutting them off from any supplies. The Sultan army is very strong, and this causes Gaza to also invade and take over some areas that are basically Punone religion, and they start to invade the southern portion of the country. Also, Popi wanted to reunite all Popi ethnicities, so they start to invade right here. They wanted to reunite the Popi ethnicities. So this is the end of Tamara basically right here. Even Feda comes in at the war because there's a bunch of Fedis living in the northern portion of Tamara. So Tamara is basically finished. There is no way they're surviving this. And Tamara, well, it's going to be basically partisans. Kind of like how Poland Lithuania is. It was a slow and painful death. They used to be a massive empire, but now they're being partitioned just like Poland, Lithuania, as well. So this is the peace agreement between the countries. So Salsa will gain this province all the way up to here. They'll gain these provinces here, and that will be the Salsan demands. Feta, which is basically kind of like the Caucasian country, they will annex all of this. Ranin will reunite the peoples here, which the people who live in the mountains. Popi will reunite the Popi majority lands, and Gaza will annex all of here, leaving Tamara a small cell of its former self as well. And now what of Tamara's colonies? Because they don't have a coast anymore. Here, and so they can't really control Cyprus. Salsa just takes over Cyprus. That's basically what happens. Salsa just takes over Cyprus, and Tamara is a small little state over here now. The Popi people are now united, basically, and Salsa is now forming its own little empire over here, so all the parties are happy. And Salsa really could have taken out without these other countries helping, because, yeah, Salsa is now this large empire, and they'll be renaming it to Somi, which is after the new emperor, basically, because this is basically what they're doing. The Salsa was the first emperor, but basically that'll be calling the country, but they're going to be calling it kind of like the Ottoman Empire. So basically, the people who control it are basically the Congress, who basically just check on the king's decisions. Basically, Somi is now the final decision name for the country. So the Somi Empire is created. They'll basically be the Ottoman Empire of this timeline. They have only just started to expand, so fortunately they cannot really attack tomorrow, but they do wanna. But they are picking. They might invade Gaza and Estra, basically, and even go into Monama and Oran as well. Meanwhile, chaos in Southeast Asia asserts again. Nadai and Bisa have an argument, a war. Bisa invades Nadai because Nadai shot the king's son, who was a diplomat for the country. So this is a pretty bad day for Nadai. This is a old country, and now they are defeated as well. So Nadai will basically lose all the lands to Bisa, and that's basically what happens. So Bisa is now this large country, basically. They're this large, massive country now because they have annexed a whole country. So yes, Bisa is the first democracy, but now they're a little empire. So, because they also control this part of Java as well. And now this is the decision to colonize the inner portion of Australia. This will be the wine, because basically we're drawing lines in the sand here. The Indian states will gain this. The Naski will gain this. Zhao will claim all this. Sifa, which is this country here, will gain all of this. No, I think that's Swift. Swift is that one. This is Swift. Swift will gain all of this. These are basically just claims. No one lives in these areas just yet. Vance will claim all of this, and Xanadu will claim all of this. So all of Australia is now claimed. There's now claims on all of Australia, basically, and basically now since they know that Australia, is this massive area, they can basically just say, hey, we're just gonna, because no one lives in Central Australia, we're just gonna buy like lions in the desert, okay? Because that's basically what they're doing. Meanwhile, someone discovers New Zealand, and it's, of course, Sunni. Sunni discovers New Zealand, and they colonize the northern island and the southern island because they want to take over the whole New Zealand island. So they take the whole New Zealand island, which means the New Zealand island is all Japanese. So that's who controls the area. Bisa will now start to expand their democracy towards China, and Rinka is not really happy about this because then Wuya, which is this Chinese state here, will annex all of this land, basically leaving the Himalayas the only area that isn't really explored. Pentan Noan will basically expand further east and annex a lot of this land here that no one owns, basically towards the Himalaya mountains. Binu creates a small real border, kind of like Afghanistan, to attempt to stop Pentan Noan expansion. Meanwhile, Dosa, which basically annexes all of the Nepalese regions here, expanding up north into the new frontier, which basically means they have up to like the Himalayas here, and Bisa will basically do the same thing. They will basically annex a lot of this area here, basically all the way up to the Tibetan Plateau. So Bisa will basically go all the way up to the Tibetan Plateau here. Meanwhile, Rufu, this country here, will basically continue to wrap around Lake Baikal. That's what they'll do. And yeah, they colonize basically the whole region around it here. Meanwhile, Miku, this is this Japanese state up here. They colonize the northern part of the island, so they also colonize this island here too. And they even start to colonize this little area right here, which is basically Kemp's culture, whatever this place is called. Meanwhile, Europe, there was a massive tension between Fry and Asgaria. So these countries are practically brothers, but Fry, there's a border dispute of the real colonial boundaries. Fry believes that this little area here is Fryan, and Asgaria says no, this has always been Asgarian, and you can't really disagree with me. So they start a massive war with each other. So Fry starts to invade Asgaria basically over this here, and this is what makes the Asgarian government really upset as well. And they start to send all the troops to basically fight against Fry, basically starting a long rivalry between both countries. Fry gets pushed back by Asgaria for a little bit, but Asgaria and Fry actually have equal populations. Because Fry, most of the people live here, and Asgaria, most of the people live down here. So Asgaria is pushing back towards Fry. Of course, Fry doesn't want people reaching the capital, so they put most of the troops here and leave this area more undefended here. So they start to invade this portion of Fry, but Fry basically pushes them back here, and basically the war ends in a stalemate, and Asgaria gets to keep the land. So basically, a new border is decided to keep so Asgaria can keep the land. Fry will gain this small province over here. That was very insignificant, so they'll lose this land, but they'll get to keep the land they claim. So this starts a nationwide hatred towards Fry. Fry also starts the colonial rivalry of Asgaria, where they also finally discover North America, and they start to colonize it as well. So this is a big rivalry between the Tamara descendant states to colonize. Basically, they're colonizing. This is colonies of a colony. That's basically what they're doing. A colony of a colony as well. Meanwhile, Kanto starts to expand further up northward as well, colonizing this Siberian land right here. Yeah, basically, these are just land claims. No one's gonna live here for a long time. But basically, what they're doing is they're basically claiming land for Siberia as well. So Kanto looks pretty strange, but this is basically most of inhabited Kanto lives down here. There are gonna be settlers going up here, obviously, but it's gonna be very, very few. And now it's the 1400s, and yeah, Asari is gonna start a war against Pentan Noan. This is gonna be Pentan Noan's gonna invade Asari. They start to invade from the northern portion of the country. Pentan Noan, which has existed, they have not really done much for a long time. They basically elect a new king who basically says, "Hey, we want to have a empire just like the other countries." So Pentan Noan invades Asari and defeats their capital and invades them really quickly. Pentan Noan had a way much more powerful military than Asari, and has a way bigger population. So Pentan Noan will basically take over a lot of this coastal land from Asari as well, which will split the country into two. Yeah, this is basically what the boundaries will look like, and these countries are split into two. Okay, so this country will exist right here, and the capital will be right here, and this country's capital will be right on the coast. So there's now Asari is split into two countries. Dantod, which is this province right here, and Asari, the original government will exist right here. And Pentan Noan will also invade Trenti as well. So Pentan Noan is becoming one of the biggest land empires in the world. So they are now invading Trenti here. Trenti surrenders when they lose the capital, so yeah, and basically this is what the borders look like of Pentan Noan. Remember, they used to just be this small country over here that does control over here, but now this is massive, massive empire. And they basically took over, uncolonized land. So most of the people here will be Pentan Noan. The only areas that will not be Pentan Noan are like down here and down here. So Pentan Noan can now establish colonies, which is what the first order of business does. They do, and they can't really take over Pacific Islands, but they can have African colonies. So Pentan Noan establishes the very, very first African colony, which is this country right here they create, and yeah. Sahi, meanwhile, colonizes these islands right here. They realize, hey, this is free real estate, so they take over. Basically, this is the Cape Verde. They take over that, so they take over Cape Verde. They also take over this little island right here, causing them to take over these. Cape Verde is right here. This is a different set of islands. Okay, Cape Verde is right here. Don't know what. I think these are the Canaries. Okay, they take over the Canary Islands. They also colonize this northern portion. Basically, that's to connect with Kuro some more. The Kurosu and Sahi, however, are pretty good friends, so they're not going to declare war on each other. Meanwhile, another war in Europe is beginning between Equal and Marin. Marin wants to have nothing to do with being an empire. However, Equal wants to basically create an empire. Yeah, because this is all the ways nowadays. With Pentan Noan, Somi, Dosa, Bisa creating and their empires, and all these Asian countries creating colonial empires. This isn't too surprising. So, Equal starts to invade Marin, basically pretty quickly, and they take over the capital very quickly. And Marin is not a very populated country compared to Equal, where it has decades of history, and they take out Marin pretty easily as well. So Marin surrenders, and they will become part of the Equis Empire. Yeah. So they will colonize here, and Equal will start massive land claims and land grabs. Basically, overnight, they will claim all of up here. Neostia will make claims for basically the Danish islands. So basically they control any traffics with the Baltic Sea because they also start to colonize this northern portion of this southern portion, the southern portion of Scandinavia. So the Irish country also, they annex the rest of Ireland. Warpy also wants to create colonies, so they also come over here because they don't want to be left out. Basically, Warpy, which is basically a colony of Tamara, they colonize here as well, creating a Warpy colony. Neasti doesn't want to be left behind with the colonial borders. Fusaka is landlocked, so basically these countries are fighting now for basically creating. These colonies are basically now fighting for control of North America. So these countries are now taking over. Meanwhile, the countries, the Chinese, these countries, Tavi, start to expand their colony as better access to the Americas now begins. The Japanese America, which is Sunni America, they start to take over a lot more of British Columbia and Alaska and parts of Alaska as well. So they take over as well. Meanwhile, Canada, who colonized Washington, this area is actually over 400 population, so they start to go southward towards Oregon, which causes a new colonial race for those areas. However, a new player will be coming in, and it will be Dorsa. Dorsa discovers North America. However, they go around Africa. However, they don't discover North America. They discover a completely new area. So Dorsa wanted to complete what So Dorsa first colonizes Southern Africa. This is what the Continental tried to do before they collapsed. And basically, they went all the way forward and colonized Brazil. Yes, they thought they were going to discover the new continent. It's what they discovered that they have been calling it. They have been calling it the new continent. Basically, the Asians haven't. But basically, Dorsa, they wanted to go around Africa and go that way. But they stumble on Brazil and Argentina. That's what they stumble on as well. Bisa also does the same exact thing, where they make a satellite colony right here, and they colonize Uruguay as well. But however, they do not realize they're colonizing a completely different continent. They think this is like one massive landmass like this. They don't know. They only know the areas they colonize. Same thing with the European countries. They know basically only up here as well. But yeah, that's about this video here, or at least this part of the video. And yeah, a lot has changed, basically. So this is the current religion map of the world. We couldn't forget about this. Pianke is spreading south because of Pentan Noan mercenaries. Basically, being used now in the names of the religion is mostly now restricted to the Benue countries, as well as Pinole is now spreading this way as well, which is basically, not really going to help. Medizium is starting to spread into this area as well. Zawan is basically staying in China. However, Kimin, this Philippine religion, has spread down here. So basically the Philippine religion has spread down here. And basically most religions have spread from the colonial masters. Oh, we forgot about one here. And yeah, I forgot about Naski. That's a very small religion, however, but they don't really have much land area, but they're basically a persecuted religion in many Hosi and Kimin areas. But basically a lot of this area has been unpopulated, so basically it takes hold for other religions to come on. But yeah, Zawan is always the biggest religion in Australia still. Meanwhile, the Indian religions occupy the other half. Africa is starting to get religionified, and I forgot about the Indian colonies. as well. We're not doing India's South American colonies today. But yeah, that's about this video here. Goodbye.